This is an open letter to the Sane Society and Uncle Sam's managers and others who are in the propaganda business, or rather, others who want to understand. People in propaganda business don't want to understand. That's why they never ask questions. The propagandists always have answers. Be careful with the person who always has answers, has the answers for everything, because then they're propagandists. Because if you don't know the question, how could you know the answer if you don't know what is the question? If you don't give time for people to ask questions, then obviously your answers are pre-packaged. The guy asks you about this, you answer about that. The guy asks you about that, you answer again about something else. That's propaganda. The system is becoming propagandist because the answers to questions don't come about, but an answer to a different question is repeated. It's sort of like, oh, I'm sorry, your answer is not the answer to my question, but never mind. Next. Salute. And I thought you said democracy should be, is a kind of governmental system in which the government answers to people. Frankly, I haven't seen any government answering to people. What I've seen in the democracies is that governments mostly playing people, not answering to questions that no one has asked, but not answering the questions that people are asking. Nobody asks about terrorism, but somebody asks about how many people are we killing, but then suddenly the other side comes on and says terrorism this and terrorism that, and you're thinking to yourself, but nobody asks about terrorism. They ask about why that 5-year-old girl got killed. Anyway, my point is something else. Here's the thing. This is when I say even the progressives in the West are so full of themselves, that, knowing one language, most of them knowing one language, maybe 1.5 languages, never really wanting to, know any other or care to know any other. Languages, cultures, perspectives, not important. Here's the thing. When you hear in some parts of this world, they say death to America, you should, which is equivalent is مرگ بر آمریکا, which is what it said, the phrase that is used in the mother tongue, the tongue that is used, the pronunciation is مرگ بر آمریکا. Now, and how they translate it to English is sort of like, yes, death to us. Why are you saying death to us? Here's the thing. Their relationship with death is a little different than your relationship with death. What I'm trying to say. A lot of their jokes involves death. What am I saying? I must have heard at least 100 times in my life that my sister and or my brother would, in a joking manner, say, I'm waiting for the news of your death. And what was the joke in it? That's my brother and my sister telling me that I'm waiting for the news of your death. خبر مرگت. what they mean by how this is a one of their not so slight jokes. For example, you're pushing a car. And somebody in the front who has authority over others, or another person who's in that group, the one in the authority may turn to the lesser one and say خبر مرگت هول بده, which if you translate it literally, it means hope to hear the news of your death. Why don't you push harder? خبر مرگت بیشتر هول بده. Wishing to hear the news of your death. Why don't you push harder? So this is a joke. This is not such a funny joke, but they use it. It's mother screams at daughter, and when they get mad, this is one of the first things they scream at each other. Mothers and daughters, and fathers and sons, and mothers and husbands and wives. The first thing they scream at each other is خبر مرگت. It's a joke, not a joke. It's a sort of like I had enough with you. Basically, خبر مرگت means I had enough of you. I hope to hear the news of your death because I had enough of you. That's the second syllable. So I'm sorry, but when you don't care to go into the culture deep enough to understand the nuances, and you actually take something verbatim, and because it sounds very vulgar in your culture, you somehow equate this with, oh, they want to kill us. They already said my sister wanted to, at least told me she loves to hear the news of my death at least 100 times in my life. My brother 100 times. My mother probably 1,000 times has told me she loved to hear the news of my death. Similar number goes for my father. It's something that it's part of their culture over there. People have this relationship with death that, yeah, Mr. Bill Maher, they have this relationship with death that, yeah, the 72 virgins that you folks love to point fingers at and laugh. Imagine, Mr. Bill Maher, that those 72 virgins are not literal virgins, they're metaphorical virgins. Imagine, Mr. Bill Maher, that you're going to have 72 more lives where you come into this world as a new product, as a virgin, and then die, and then you come in and then but theoretically you can have 72 wives if you have 72 more lives left to go and come back, go on, reincarnation. If you do have 72 lives left, so you can potentially have 72 virgins, one per lifetime, potentially. So if you look at it like that, not that you're going over there into heaven and each man is going to have his haram sarah, but as you're going to return, and this time, have a different wife, and the next time have a different wife, and 72 times you get to go around this shit show. Salute. If you look at it like that, death doesn't seem so bad, does it? It's sort of like, okay, I had enough, good run. It was very easy, had a lot of fun. I want to, now the next life, I want to experience a beggar's life or a disabled's life. And there was too much fun in this life, let me experience pain and suffering as well. Imagine it like that, 72 lives, which you potentially can accumulate 72 virgins, and the women can attend to 72 men in their cycle around. So I'm trying to say, death to America doesn't mean what you think it means. It's not, the relationship with death is much different than your relationship with death. The Western perspective of death, yes, you do have a resurrection, but that's saved for very special people, the Son of God. The rest of you don't believe you're going to be resurrected. But what if? What if you were, and there is a reincarnation, and you come back, and you do it for 72 times? In that sense, if you look at it, Jesus would not be so special. We all have been going and coming back for a while now. He came back to the same body, we just changed bodies. Some people go back to the same body, some people change bodies. Anyway, my point is that if your relationship with death is not as harsh, here's another example. One of the best known stories of the, I guess you can say the Iliads of the Persian language, one of their best known sagas and stories. It's a book of poem in which it's the highlight story in the book that is well known throughout is a father who kills his own son through ignorance, because of ignorance. The father who kills his own son because of ignorance. That's the highlight of that book of poem. Book of Kings is called. So, and that's father saying the death of his own son is bad enough. Father being the reason for the death of his own son is, you would consider very horrendous. It is. But you see, the most well-known story in their culture is the story of the father who accidentally killed his own son. Not accidentally, through ignorance. Not accidentally, sorry. Through ignorance. Because of ignorance, he didn't know it was his own son. So again, the relationship, if you think death is the end, it's really horrible. But if you think this death is one of the 72, doesn't seem that horrible. You see what I mean? It can be a learning opportunity. If you think you're coming back 72 times, you can consider it as a learning opportunity, as if to say, let's not be that ignorant to not to recognize your own son, so you kill him. And that's coming from, what you see is when, the Europeans and the North Americans who are ex-Europeans trying to eliminate Iran, which they all originated from. To the Sane Society. It's on that level of ignorance. If these guys, as they have been destroying the Palestinians. Palestine is where these people in Europe came from, i.e. the sons of these, if assuming the Ashkenazi are just as much Palestinians as the Ashkenazi are Palestinians, so we all go back there, just like we all go back to Africa. So Palestine is where we all landed right after we came out of Africa. So every one of us has an ancestor who has passed through the Suez Canal and has landed in Israel. All of us have had that ancestor that passed through Egypt and landed in Israel, in Palestine. So the children have come home to kill their parents, or where their parents landed in Asia, from Africa, the children have returned to murder their parents. I.e., the Ashkenazi are murdering the Arabs. We all came from that area, so we all have some Arab in us, some Semite in us. Salute. So, back to the main theme. When they say death to this and death to that and death to the other, you have to understand death doesn't mean in their culture what it means in your culture. For them, death is not the end. Really, it's not the end. It's like, the traditional culture believed in. Let me put it this way. In the traditional culture of that area, in West Asia, in their traditional culture, they would, for 30 years after the death of someone in the family, for 30 years, every year on the day of their death, they set out a meal, a good considerable meal out for the person who had died. Whether it was a father or a daughter or a mother or a sister, they would lay down a big meal out and, put the meal out and go about their own day. Sort of basically saying this meal is for the guy who's died, the person who's died, and they will come back, and if they can't eat it, they can at least smell it. Imagine that, Why would for 30 years this fucker be coming back? Unless you believe that this fucker has not left. This fucker is here, is in a different body, and that spirit can come out and venture out and go back to where it used to live. Once in a while, maybe once a year, on the day of their death, may go back, their spirit may go back home and say hi. Let's leave out some food to show our appreciation of the person who has died. At least their spirit knows of our appreciation. This is how they look at death. You're coming back, don't worry about it. This is how they're looking at death. So basically, when they mean death, they mean something much more. They don't mean something as severe as death. When they say marg, which is, the literal translation of the word death, they don't really, it's sort of like, I'm getting annoyed with you. You should hear, I'm getting annoyed with you. That's exactly what, my sister, I must have heard from her like 100 times, 1,000 times, that khabar marget, which basically means you're annoying me. You're annoying me. That's what the Iranian people mean. It's sort of, this is an annoying situation. Stop trying to fuck us up the ass. This is an annoying situation. And imagine, seriously, imagine Uncle Sam's managers have got their cock in their hand and going around looking for a hole to stick it in. And the Iranians have been keep holding their asshole, preventing this dick from going in. And Uncle Sam's managers are saying, nope, we gotta have our dick in. Both the guy or the woman gets annoyed. You call that rape. You say if they don't want to sleep with you, you should back off. If you don't, that would be rape. You can't just take your dick in your hand and go up to the woman, try to persuade her. If she says no, she means no. Just like the Russians, when they said no over Ukraine, they meant no. But no, Uncle Sam's managers have got a hard-on for everybody. Dick in hand, we are going in and we are going to stick this to somebody. It gets annoying if you keep your dick in your hand, go around and try to stick it to this, and then Mr. Rahm Emanuel comes on Mr. John Stewart's show. Mr. Rahm Emanuel comes in and says, yes, the Chinese have been stealing our jobs, stealing all the opportunities from our people. Chinese have been stealing the opportunities to work for $500 a month, screwing little screws. You want to, demonize the Chinese, Mr. Rahm Emanuel? Why? They have been screwing those screws for $500 per head per month, and you're demonizing them. I'm sorry, if somebody works for me for cheap, I like them. I don't demonize them. If somebody works for cheap for me, that are willing to accept the lower standard of living so I can live higher on the hog, I like them. Why are you trying to demonize the Chinese after so many years of service to the West, providing all the shit you wanted at a cheap price? They worked for it. They didn't steal anything from you, Mr. Rahm Emanuel. You're trying to demonize the Chinese and the Russians and the Middle Easterners. Everybody is a demon except you. Salute. Nobody's a demon except you. Apparently, because you got your dick in your hand and you're hoping to stuff it in something around the world. Taiwan, Japan, Ukraine, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, Vietnam, Ukraine, Berlin, Cuba, Venezuela, Honduras. You already got your dick up El Salvador. This is white imperialism, and anybody who doesn't get it, they don't want to get it. If it's right in front of your eyes and you don't see it, that means you don't want to see it. That would be both Mitt Romney and Mr. Rahm Emanuel. They both don't want to recognize that what they're practicing is white imperialism, European imperialism. And that's the whole situation behind Israel. Israel is not an exception. For those who know history, they know that European countries would have never let down the 13 American colonies in their push against the natives. If the European countries had the opportunity and the American colonies of Europeans needed help, it was always available because racially they identify. Just like the relationship Israel has with North America and Europe now. If they have available bombs, planes, whatever, tanks, whatever Israelis need, money, food, whatever Israelis need, we will deliver. Because it's a racial relationship. I don't think there is, Israelis don't have a magic ball. They don't have a, some dark magic. No, this is the same magic that the early Christian settlers in North America had. That is the magic of Europeans see themselves as the parents of these new colonies in Americas, in Africa, in Asia, and they see themselves as the parent and these colonies as their child that they identify with. They're the same race, and they keep bringing them together as Judeo-Christian bunch because they identify racially with them, just like the Europeans racially identified with the 13 colonies, and later on with the United States. The same relationship United States has with Israel. So Netanyahu doesn't have some kind of a dark magic. No, they want to help. Europeans and North Americans, they want to help Israel. Whatever it does over there is okay. Do you think the British would have objected at any point on any day if the 13 colonies had killed 100,000 Redskin Indians? The British would always send a congratulation note that, oh, you killed 100,000 Redskins and you freed those lands. Oh, congratulations, my son. That's the same letter Netanyahu gets. That's the same reception that Netanyahu gets in the White House from both Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump. This is a child of the father. Israel is a settlement of white people in West Asia, and they're treated as a prodigal son. Always. That doesn't matter what they do. Because Americans got the same reception when they were colonizing North America in Europe. The Americans got the same reception in Europe when they were colonizing North America as Israelis are getting in Europe and North America. The same reception. Hey, come on in. Good job. You freed some land. Let's go now put up a casino. The same offer was probably made. King George made probably the same offer, or whoever the fucking king or queen who was in power during colonization of North America by white people. Imagine, one of the governors of one of the 13 states would have gone to England to do business or whatever, and would go and see the king or the prince, and the reception is the same. It's like, where are you? How are you doing, my brother, my white brother, my white European brother, even better, my white British brother? How are you dealing with those savages over there? And you think, they cannot work out a deal in which, the British would provide more arms to the 13 colonies in order for the white people to push the red people even farther. Of course they would. They would get something out of it. That's the same thing with Ukraine. The arms are sold, given, and then comes time to go and pay the check. Imagine Ukrainians have been sitting at the restaurant eating all the arms that they thought Uncle Sam's managers are giving for free. Ukrainians have been using these arms not under the perception that they're going to be paying for this, because nobody up to this point, nobody talked of any payment. It was apparent, supposedly the arms were donated. They gave it, Ukrainians took it, and they didn't ask many questions. Now, and some of it ended up in black market, and some of it ended up in the front line. But now Uncle Sam's managers are saying that, oh, no, those weapons, they weren't free. Now sign these papers and give us the minerals. So you killed my people with the weapons that you provided. My people got killed. Their land became free, and now you want the land as the price for the weapons that you provided to kill my people. In the process, my people got killed. After having a superfluous fight, a useless fight with my neighbors. The Sane Society. Ukraine was doing fine until talk of NATO came in, Russia went in, and now Ukrainians are dead and BlackRock wants their land. Okay.
Tired of hearing the ads? Sign up for Whispering's Pure Screen.
So my point is this, folks. You're going to do what you're going to do because, in the Western mindset, if you don't kill the guy, you're showing weakness. And in the colonialist mindset that white people have, not all white people, rich white people, because rich white people are the ones who are saying, no, it's not enough. I want more. BlackRock wants more money, not less money, more money. In their mindset of money is everything, and that is capitalism. You're always going to have try to do colonialism because, you know, if you can get raw resources at cost, you can pocket double the profit. You know, if Mr. Elon Musk can buy an Ukrainian lithium mine and own it, then he can extract the lithium at cost. He doesn't have to pay for it. I'm not saying he's for this Ukrainian business, but I'm just saying he needs lithium. And getting anything at cost is more profitable. So the idea that trying to demonize one country after another, you're not just I'm trying to find out the next time I hear, I'm going to pay attention to see which countries are good, which one is not an enemy, and whether they're usually the same race or subservient. In the mind, in the geopolitics of the pinkskins, at the 10% that the ruling class, the first condition of being considered as equal friend is you have to be white. You have to be a white nation. And that's why Israel gets the pass. Not because they're Jewish, because they're white. At least they're white. The Jewishness is, we let them get away with it because at least they're white. You know, they're Hungarian who's Jewish, and there is Polish who's Jewish, he's Russian who's Jewish. He's white, he just happened to be Jewish. It's better than having to deal with the fucking Arabs, I guess. It's sort of like Las Vegas. It's sort of the NFL owners. That, you know, you gotta be of the certain group of people. I understand that they don't let anybody in. That's another, you know, white man's club. You know, it's a very exclusive white man's club. And, you know, the whole idea of country clubs, the whole idea of the Christians not allowing Jews in their country clubs and Jews not allowing Christians in their country clubs, but at least they're all white. So they just need their own homeland. The Jewish people just need their own homeland. But try to explain to them, but they're white. Their homeland has to be in Europe because they're white. No. The Europeans at that point become very illogical and very, very biblical. So my point is, please don't take anybody so literally. Your death may not be their death. Sometimes when they say, I wish to hear the news of your death, it probably means you're fucking annoying me. Why don't you push harder? Something like that. Imagine. So, and on the other hand, you don't have enemies, my pink-skinned friends who are not of the ruling class. You should understand, you don't have enemies. Your only enemy are the people, the 10% who are, at the apex of your society. The rest of the world, they're just doing their business. That's many of the veterans that come back, they're very upset and confused, is because once they were there in somebody else's backyard, they were suddenly they came to themselves and thought to themselves, many of them have come thought to themselves that, what the fuck am I doing here? This guy was washing his baby and his wife was taking a shit, and I just walked into their home, guns drawn. What the fuck am I doing here? And that's when it clicks that, the 10% want to go to war for profits. And the rest of the bullshit about demonizing the West and the East, demonizing this and that, the other, you're literally going down the path that, as you can see, suddenly then neighbors become demonized. Because once you get this ball of demonization rolling, Mr. Rahm Emanuel, demonizing the Chinese, okay. Demonizing the Russians, okay. Demonizing the Iranians, okay. Well, somebody just went one above you and is demonizing even the Canadians and the Mexicans. So what of it? When you start demonizing anybody who you don't like, somebody else is going to demonize a few of the people they don't like, a few of the countries they don't like, and then you can't object because you have been okay with the subject of demonization in order to increase your profits or the profits of friends and family. You have been comfortable with demonizing countries and people and organizations just because they didn't benefit you. But then your benefit, your interest, and others' interests don't always coincide. They don't always match. They have different interests because they make their money in a different way. You make your money in your way, so that you demonize this and you demonize that in order to make more money, and some other guy has different demons, different people, different organizations, different countries that he thinks he can make money by demonizing them. You can't object to that. Once you start going down that road, demonizations for profit, then you can't say others should not go down that road. And eventually the two, you and the other, will point their finger at each other and demonize each other. Ring any bell, Mr. Genius Rahm Emanuel, Ambassador Rahm Emanuel? When you start demonizing, you will end up at your own home. Because sometimes the interests conflict. And if you don't have principle and you only have interest, when the interests conflict and you have opened the door for demonization, for the furtherment of interest, then anybody can pass through that door. When you open that door, we are willing to demonize for profits. Once you open that door, then sometimes Mr. Trump passes through that door. And eventually the demonization reaches home. Any questions? Ring any bell? Nobody's a demon. You have to stop behaving like children. To get more squeeze more profit, start demonizing each other on this fucking planet. Bravo, Mr. Rahm Emanuel. Bravo.